Hello, beautiful ladies. I've always had a very activist mindset, which is I've tried to institute a lot of change in a lot of areas through a very verbal means by trying to talk a lot to people about why they should change and why the world should change, and trying to do a lot of good that way. And one thing that's great about feminine energy is that I've learned that I can actually have more success in giving myself a better life through talking less, actually, and just having an embodiment and an energy of being well cared for, which causes people in my life to treat me better than if I just tried to be treated better just through talking a bunch about how I expect to be treated. Now, are we in this strange position where men are now used to doing 50-50 relationships and used to getting away with being in relationships with women for years and years, leading them on about wanting to marry them someday, and they never intend to? Is that how it is for all of us? And nothing's going to change, and each woman individually will have to keep trying? Nope. Just one of us having higher standards will impact the people around us, a few degrees of separation out, which is wonderful. And let me tell you how. So men love social status. And, one can get upset about it, but one could get paid. I love the mantra, don't get mad, get paid. I use it all the time to myself now. So when a man treats you very well, because that's what you expect of him, and because if he didn't, you wouldn't be around, he tells all his friends about it. At least if he has good friends. So this works if he has a lot of good friends, or if he's, even loosely friends with his coworkers. And they'll even lie about it or exaggerate. And in the past, before learning about feminine energy, I'd be very reactionary and just immediately get mad that someone's lying, instead of taking a second to think whether or not it serves me best to actually react in this situation. So I have known about a number of my husband's exaggerations or lies about how much he provides for me. And I think he's told me because I am such a very honest person, and he knows that I do tell him some things just out of honesty instead of, only telling him the things he wants to hear. And I think it's also because he himself doesn't understand to the degree that he lies and exaggerates. Some of that is going to be him probably not being autistic like I am, where I think very little deviations from the truth are lies. One of the things he's lied about, which is so strange to me, is that he's told his coworkers that are on the other side of the country that my first child is his child. And maybe he hasn't said that exactly, but, he's said my kid, and has just let everyone assume that it was his kid all along. And I didn't have to tell him this, as far as always saying the right thing to serve my own best interests, but I told him, why are you doing this? Wouldn't it feel bad for when you have your first baby that you can't talk to your coworkers about your experience having your first baby? I think it's very strange that he did this. But it might just be exactly the thing that his coworkers need to hear. There are certainly people out there who have been in years-long relationships and are just waiting and waiting for their man to marry them. And, in feminine energy teachings, they can be used to get a man to marry you after being with you for so long and just taking advantage of your low standards to be with someone so long without them marrying you. But the way it works is that in feminine energy, you don't allow yourself to be so attached to wanting to be with someone even though they're not treating you the way that you want to be treated. So, that might very well involve leaving them, and then, either they get around to actually proposing to you right away, or they don't, and you find someone else who is absolutely wonderful to marry. I do want to let the world know what I've learned about feminine energy, but definitely within my social circle, there's not very many people who are ready to hear all that I've learned. I know a lot of people who don't see anything wrong with a 50-50 mindset, don't see anything wrong with someone telling you they want to get married someday and just taking years and years and years to do so. So my husband's coworkers are mostly people that have been in long relationships that have not led to marriage yet. And he's a good example to them for 3 reasons. One is if they really think that we had a baby first and then later on got married, well, that's nice for them to know that example, because some of them did have children with their partners and are still not married. Second is that he has told them how much the ring cost. I got to overhear a conversation he had with a coworker of his over the phone, and his coworker's girlfriend happened to be in the background. And my husband told him how much he paid for the ring, which, it's enough. But it's not a huge amount. It's not something that people have to save up for years and years to buy. And his girlfriend in the background says to her boyfriend, "You could have bought that yesterday," which was so satisfying to hear. I've heard so many people say they want to get married and it's so expensive and they need to save up for a big marriage. I personally would rather get married sooner and have a smaller wedding, as opposed to someone having another excuse to not marry me as quick. Now, that's just me. With feminine energy, you don't have to settle for that. If someone's saying, I have to wait a long time to marry you because I have to afford this big wedding, you can also just leave them, because it might be a value of yours to have a big enough wedding and to have a quick enough wedding instead of having to be dating or engaged with someone for a long, long time. And the other thing that helps them have another example in their lives is that my husband and I decided to do a quick courthouse wedding. He actually had a quicker engagement than I expected him to have. I suppose it didn't matter how quick it was if he wasn't going to wait the years to have a great big wedding that he wanted to have. So we had a quick courthouse wedding, and we will get to have another ceremony in the future as he wants. But thankfully, ball is in his court. He's the one who has to worry about making sure that happens, and I do not have to worry about whether or not he's actually going to follow through with marrying me years out when he decides he can afford a great big ceremony. Another thing I appreciate about feminine energy teachings is that there's not a lot of encouraging people to manifest from a place of lack. We're allowed to dream really big and go after really big desires that other people say aren't reasonable. Or if they haven't said that directly, somehow life has led us to think that we're asking for too much. And you don't have to solve any of the problems of men leading you on by giving them the option of, oh, we could have a cheaper wedding, we could have a cheaper ring. I think it's just very good that these examples are out there in the ether, encouraging men to be better, because as far as I'm concerned, him marrying me quicker, spending a little less money, was him treating me better. And it's also treatment that other women would desire and they're not getting. The girlfriend that I overheard on the phone probably said something about how she wouldn't care if, the ring were that cheap or even way cheaper. We just don't want to say those things. If you were to say, I don't care how cheap my ring is, I don't care how cheap my wedding is, I just want you to marry me, that's you being in your chasing energy. That's also you being a pick-me, which is a term I'm very happy to have learned about. I won't use it too much on this channel. I'll mostly say chasing energy. In feminine energy, you attract and you receive the things you desire, and then if you're not getting what you want, you don't stick around. You're not available for that. It's not a thing where you want to try to get somebody to give you the things you want, even though they're not, and you're just arguing and complaining with them for years and years and years. It's also nice that, a cute phrase for this is men tell on themselves. It's really cute that men care so much about status, and instead of us, being upset that they're just trying to make themselves look good, we can, just decide to do what's best for us. And, not get mad if that's what serves us in the moment. Another very silly thing my husband did was he was telling people that he was fully providing for me when he was not yet paying 100% of my bills. But this was another really wonderful thing for people to hear, especially in my area and in my social circle. There's so much 50-50 behavior on all sides. And as far as anyone heard, my husband was providing for me fully before marriage and well before we had even been together a year, which is awesome for people to hear. And, if any of the women in my life, in my husband's life, get sick of 50-50, they know it's possible. And the men in my husband's life, know examples of how to treat their women better, which is wonderful. The other funny thing about feminine energy is that you really want the man to be providing for you from a place of him like just emotionally wanting to do it. You don't want him thinking too much about if he's getting, the exact fair deal that makes it worthwhile that he's providing for his women so much. You want to keep him out of his logical mind. So, this is sort of stuff where you aren't going to post it, on Facebook, for both your male and female friends to see, because you're not going to, tell your husband that he's providing for you because, his wife did all the right steps to make him feel like providing for you. He feels that way, and, you just let him feel that way instead of him needing to understand where any of those feelings come from. And so feminine energy gets to be something that's talked about privately amongst women, but at the same time, as we are refraining from, spilling absolutely everything on the internet, we're still spreading the word about feminine energy because the men in our lives love status, they love looking good, and they're going to tell everyone about how much they do for you. It's pretty fun, isn't it? I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.